The Crusades were some of history's most fierce wars. For centuries, followers of different religions contested land they both considered sacred. Control shifted backwards and forwards until Arab Muslims eventually emerged the dominant force in the region. But what if things had turned out differently? Could the European Christians have emerged the overall winners? And how different would world history have been if they had? Today we will examine how the Christian Crusader forces could have won and what that would have meant. This is Knowledge Voyage. The Crusades were some of history's bitterest battles, as forces from the world's two greatest monotheistic faiths fought for control of a land both considered sacred. After several hundred years, the Holy Land was eventually secured by Arab Muslim forces. But could the Crusades have succeeded? Were the Crusaders doomed from the start? Or could a few strategic changes have driven back the Arab Muslims and secured the area for Christendom? As it happened, there were several things that could have won the Crusades and established a permanent European Christian presence in the Middle East. The first was population, immigration, and settlers. The Europeans were never more than a small population, and the ones who came often left soon afterwards after fulfilling pilgrimage or crusading vows. But suppose the Europeans had promoted mass immigration into the Holy Land from Europe. In later centuries, in places like America, Canada, and Australia, mass wave European immigration helped the Europeans secure these lands for their culture. So we know from real-life examples that once European military action was coupled with massive European immigration, the land was secured. So, the Crusaders could have won by immigration. The second way was for the Crusaders to seek out the Mongols. The Mongols were the greatest army in the world at the time. They had crushed everyone from Chinese emperors to Indian sultans. The Mongols had also demonstrated, rather usefully, that they knew how to fight and beat Arab Muslims. In 1258, Mongols captured and destroyed the city of Baghdad, and there was talk of the Europeans approaching the Mongols for a formal alliance. But in our timeline, two things complicated this. Firstly, the Europeans were seen as overly pushy on insisting the Mongols convert to Catholicism first before any formal alliance, rather than overlooking this in favour of the much bigger strategic picture of hitting the Arab armies from two sides. It is doubtful the Arab Muslims could have sustained a two-front war with European Crusaders in the west and Mongols in the east. With enough time, the Arabs would have had to cut their losses, and the Crusaders could have easily carved out a permanent Christian European outpost in any peace deal. The second reason a Mongol option was never pursued was due to internal Mongol politics. The Mongols were struggling over who should be the supreme Khan, and instead of focusing all their armies on the Arabs, sent a vast number of Mongol soldiers home. This left a dangerously depleted force to fight the Arabs at the Ain Jalut battle site. With their numbers reduced, the Mongols lost and forever lost interest in the Middle East. Had the Mongols remained invested with a full force, maybe the Crusaders would have succeeded as their Arab Muslim opponents were ground down by the Mongols. The final way the Crusades could have succeeded was by having a change of thrust. The main focus of the Crusades was capturing the symbolic and religious target of Jerusalem, but perhaps a better target would have been Egypt. Egypt was the main source of grain for the Arab world and one of their key bases for their navy. Furthermore, Egypt still had a Christian majority at the time of the Crusades, so had the Crusaders attacked here, they would have had most ordinary Egyptians rally to their side. Had Egypt been knocked out of Arab Muslim control, the Crusades would then have shifted. The European Christians would have seized the food supply of the Arab world and now control the sea routes to the Muslim heartlands of Arabia, including Mecca and Medina. The Arab Muslims would have been very sensitive to attack here, so would have had no choice but to pull back their troops from the Holy Land to defend Arabia. So, had the Christian forces focused on Egypt, not the Holy Land, they would have gotten both Egypt and the Holy Land. The Christian forces in our timeline only briefly attempted this, with several poorly planned attacks on Egypt by Crusaders, instead of full-scale focused attacks aiming at invasion and occupation. So, could the Crusades have succeeded? In short, yes, but only if a mixture of things happened. Firstly, the Crusaders would have needed to encourage massive immigration into the Middle East from Europe to secure the initial military successes. Secondly, the Mongols should have been sought out more earnestly to grind down the Arabs in a two-front war. And finally, had the Crusaders attacked the economic heart of the Arab Muslims in Egypt, rather than the symbolic but strategically rather limited Holy Land, the victory would have been more likely. As it happened, none of this occurred, and the Europeans withdrew, leaving the Middle East to be dominated by Arab Muslims, a situation that continues to this day. However, had things been different, maybe the Crusades would have ended with a very different conclusion. Thanks for watching everyone, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you.